Alright, so today I thought I'd bring you another comparison review. This time we're going to be comparing the Transformers Prime First Edition Optimus Prime to the Transformers Prime RID Optimus Prime. So instead of doing individual reviews on each figure, since I'm sure that you guys have seen plenty of reviews on both of these individual figures, I thought I'd do a straight up comparison video highlighting the differences and similarities for you guys. So we'll start off in vehicle mode. We'll get started with the first edition here. And just looking at them side by side here from the front, right away you can already see some differences in paint apps and size as well. Just highlighting some differences real quick on the front. You can see over here on the RID you've got the painted headlights, yellow, whereas over here on the first edition you've got some translucent, or as MGO would say, transparent headlights that are blue right there. Both have the Autobot symbol on the front of the grille. The grille over here is a little darker on RID as opposed to the first edition, and I kind of actually like this shade right here better than that shade personally. He does have the painted lights up top on the first edition, whereas the RID does not. RID has the mirrors on the side. First edition does not. Now, as you can probably see, that there are some gapping issues on the first edition mold. I'll go ahead and grab this guy real quick and pull him up here. No matter what I do, let me move the RID out of the way. I cannot get this panel here to stay pegged all the way flush. It doesn't want to. Cannot get the roof to stay down all the way. It pops back up, or even pegged all the way together. And I don't know if that's just an issue with my particular figure or with the mold in general. I'm not sure. So that sort of sucks, especially when you think about how much this guy is going for right now, that these don't stay flush. That bothers me. But we'll go ahead and continue looking at this guy from the side. As you can see, he is rather long. He is a good sized figure in vehicle mode. It does have some nice detailing here on the side. I do like that. From the back, he does have his trailer hitch, even though he does not have a trailer per se. The feet, as we all I'm sure know, fold up in here, and on the side again. Alright, so there's the first edition. Let's pull out the RID. They are a different shade of red as well, you can probably notice. First edition is a little darker, a little darker red as compared to the RID. I'm not sure if that's picking up on the camera very well. But going on with the RID, moving on from the front, we'll go to the side. Does have that detailing there on the bottom as well, just like the first edition, only it's a smaller section, whereas you can see on the first edition is a little larger than on the RID. But that's no big deal. As a whole, the RID is a shorter vehicle, so that would make sense. If we line them up, you can see right here that the first edition is a little bit longer and a little bit taller. There's not the blue accents down here on the bottom like there is on the first edition on the RID. If you look at the top though, the problem with the gapping is not present on RID. These sit nice and flush with everything. It makes for a much more cohesive looking vehicle mode if you ask me. The trailer section looks better too. It's nice and pegged together, and there's not as much, gapping in there. And that's actually, part of the design in this one. That's not a transformation problem, that's just the way it was designed. And up top we also have a nice Autobot logo up top as well, whereas the first edition does not. Now for weapons storage in this mode, sucks really. The weapon storage really sort of sucks for both of them. You take RIDs and peg it into the trailer hitch, and now he's got his sword and his giant stupid mech tech weapon hanging off the back. And for first edition, you do something pretty similar. You take the sword, plug it in over there, take the gun, plug it in right there, and now he's got a sword and gun hanging off of his rear. So weapon storage, pretty lame on both of them. But in this particular mode, I have to say I like the RID much better than the first edition. He looks like a better truck, the RID does, than the first edition. And a lot of that, in my opinion, has to do with the fact that things do not stay pegged together as tight as they should on the first edition. Also, the proportions look a little better, if you ask me, on RID than first edition. So, while the RID wins this round, I'm going to take a break, transform these guys into robot mode, and we'll come back and look at them side by side. Alright, and now we've got these guys into their respective robot modes. Let's take a look at them and see how they stack up next to each other. We'll start with the first edition here. Let me set RID back a little bit out of the way. Now, as I'm sure we're all aware, the first edition was very similar to the first edition Deluxe in the transformation. However, it did everything that the Deluxe did and did it way better. And this guy looks amazing. So accurate, so good looking, so close to the CGI model is this toy. Wonderful looking head sculpt right there. Some people do complain about the use of the fake chest. I don't care, it looks great. You got the wheels up here. You got a wonderful looking midsection, ab area, some headlight detailing in there. Great looking feet. A nice looking shoulder area. The Autobot symbol is sort of in the wrong area, but that's okay. Doesn't bug me that much. I don't really care. Smokestacks look good, if maybe they're a little too long, but you know what, who cares? All the times there were people complaining about Hasbro making the smokestacks too short on primes, and now they're going to complain that they're too long, so what? Now, the cape, the backpack, he does have one. However, it's really unobtrusive. I mean, it's really hard to see looking at him straight on. Look at him sideways, I mean, it's there, but it doesn't stick out that much, really. And then if you look at the back, it's really folded up quite neatly, especially when you compare it to what the RID version's got going on. So let's set first edition Prime off to the side, and let's grab this guy. Now, this guy, he's not bad, but when compared to how the first edition looks, there's an obvious difference. You know, there's an obvious, he's obviously not as screen accurate. He doesn't look quite as slim and built really as the first edition does. And then he does have the cape, which is very noticeable from the front on this guy. The head sculpt still looks good. I like the first edition a little better. He does use the actual windshield from the vehicle mode in his robot mode, which is nice. That's cool. But again, the fact that the first edition cheats in that area doesn't bother me at all, really. He does have the Autobot symbol in the same spot virtually as the first edition does. The legs, I do like how he's got the black feet, which the first edition does as well. The first edition's got the heel panels, which I like. The red kind of breaks that up a little bit, which I'm not a huge fan of, but again, looking at the first edition straight on, you don't really see that. Whereas the RID doesn't really have any heels to say. So, so kind of a trade-off. No heels versus heels with a color that I'm not real keen on. Now, another thing that the RID gets knocked for is the forearms. The clear blue plastic on the forearms. Yeah, it's out of place. It doesn't look great. It looks okay. It's not as bad as some people make it out to be. You can take a red Sharpie and fix that yourself. I haven't, don't plan to. It doesn't bother me enough to really do that. The cape. This is the biggest problem with this guy, if you ask me. Why could Hasbro do something as nice as folding this up on the first edition and then take the RID and do this? I think most of us will never understand why they did that. Is it simpler to transform? Yes. Does it look good? No. Also puts the smokestacks way back off to the side, which is also not accurate at all. So, you know, in the end, when it comes to robot modes, got to give it to the first edition all the way. RID is not a bad toy. It just doesn't look as good, as sleek, as slim, as powerful, as built as the first edition does. Not to mention, first edition looks so accurate to the CGI model, whereas RID does not. You know, some people care about that, some don't. If you're looking for a fun toy, nothing wrong with RID, not to mention he's probably a third, if not less than that, the price of a first edition right now. So he does have that going for him. Now, as far as weapons go, we'll start with the first edition. Set you off to the side for a bit. First edition Prime comes with his blade and his cannon. And they both peg right into his hands, just like so. Get his cannon there. And then get his blade plugged in. Maybe. Come on. There we go. And now he's got his weapons. And they look good. I'm not crazy about the blade. It is that soft, bendy plastic, which doesn't bother me too much other than the fact it does look upside down. Now, I can't really remember on the show if that's how it looks or not, per se. But that does look like it's upside down. I love the cannon. This looks great. It's got a nice kind of... It's almost like a fleck in the paint or sparkles or something that really stands out nicely. I do like the cannon. So, weapons, awesome on first edition. Now, RID. This guy, unfortunately, suffers big time when it comes to weapons, as almost all of the Voyagers from the RID line have so far. He does have a decent sword. I will give him that. I do like the sword. And it's not the soft, bendy plastic either. It's that hard plastic. And it looks good in his hand. But he also comes with this. There's a little MechTech light up gimmick thing that, you know, you pull, the light goes on, the gun comes out. But if you let go, it snaps up. And there's no way to lock it into place without going in and unscrewing stuff and pulling springs out and so forth. Without doing some kind of mod to it yourself, there's no way to lock that out. So effectively, he has no gun. Because, you know, it plugs into his forearm here, which also looks stupid. But to give him a gun, you got to pull that back. But to do that, you got to straighten his arm and then rotate his whole arm out and then pull that back. But you got to hold it for him to have a blaster. You can't display him with that out, again, without doing some kind of mod to it yourself. So, when it comes to weapons, first edition wins again, handily when it comes to weapons. Absolutely hate the MechTech weapons for the Voyager RID line. So far, they've been terrible. If there was a way to lock them out without modding them yourself, they'd be a little bit better. At least then you could give them a cannon without having to hold it down or take springs out or something. But still, even then, they're too big. They look ugly. They really do. So, in the end, when comparing these two guys straight up, RID, I think, has a much better vehicle mode. Better proportions. Everything stays pegged together nicely. There's not that gapping issue that the first edition has. When it comes to robot mode, though, the first edition blows RID out of the water. As you can see, there's also a nice size difference too. The first edition is a good bit taller than the RID version, which I forgot to mention. Which makes him scale. If you have the first edition Bulkhead and some of the other first edition toys, he scales much better as well, if that's a big thing for you. Scale matters to some, not to others. Not so much with me, but having the first edition Bulkhead in my collection now, it's nice to have a Prime that's bigger than Bulkhead. Weapons, first edition wins again. I like the sword that comes with the RID version. Hate the MechTech weapon. Really like the blaster on first edition, and the blade is okay. It's not perfect, but it's certainly better than the MechTech that this guy got. So in the end, you know, how do you display your Transformers? Well, most of us display them in robot mode, which means you're going to want to have first edition Prime. If you can get your hands on this guy for what you feel is a reasonable price, and I was lucky enough that a fellow board member on TFW was able to pick one up for me in Canada and send him to me for what I thought was a really good price, definitely do so. Pick him up if you can. I mean, if not, you know, if you're collecting the Prime toys, you can't get first edition Prime, you got to have an Optimus Prime for your set, so definitely get the RID. Personally, I know that in my display, since I have 2 Primes now, this guy will be displayed in vehicle mode, this guy will be displayed in robot mode. And that's pretty much how they're going to stay. So, just like I did with the Cliff Jumper video, please leave comments down below. Let me know which one of these 2 figures you guys prefer and why. I'd love to hear from you guys. I know we're going to have different opinions, and I'd like to know what you guys are thinking. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.